Hare Krishna, and welcome to the Soul Ashraya podcast, a weekly bhakti podcast where we seek the shelter and the wisdom of our dear Lord Krishna through Shastra, prayer, and conversation. I am your host, Bhakta Jake, and I am usually joined with my friend and teacher, Balaram Shakti Das. I think he's running just a little bit late today. So we are going to go ahead and start without him, and hopefully he will pop on soon. We shall see. So today's podcast was going to be a little bit different. Hello, Mukunda, welcome. Nice to have you. So, today, as I was saying, today's podcast is going to be a little bit different because we're taking a break from the Krishna book to talk about Ratha Yatra and all the great things that happen during Ratha Yatra. Yes. We got Mukunda with us. Nice to have you.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Yes, Hare Krishna. That's a beautiful picture of you right there. I love that. Excellent picture. So Balaram is running a little bit late. You don't have to say anything, but if you'd like to, by all means, you can unmute yourself at any point if you want to add anything. Like I was explaining, today's episode is number 12, and we are going to be talking about Ratha Yatras and the experiences that we have at them and what they mean and why they're so important. So I'm going to start by explaining that yesterday was an amazing day. The New York City Ratha Yatra was yesterday, and it was my first time there. And it was, there was electricity in the air. New York City is already a very kind of high vibration kind of a place anyway. So when you get, I don't know, 30, 40, 50,000 devotees down there chanting the holy names and praising the Lord, things really, really escalate quickly. So the amazing thing about yesterday was just being in front of the deities, seeing the deities up close and personal on the carts, and how it just gives you such a entirely, it takes it is definitely a step up, is what I should be saying. It will increase your faith 1,000-fold. To be able to grab a hold of the ropes and pull the carts. And for anyone who's new to Krishna consciousness, and you're watching this and you're thinking, what is this guy talking about? So the story is that they pulled Lord Jagannath from Jagannath Puri to a different location, or else it was to Jagannath Puri. And the whole story behind it is like they put him on carts and they pulled the Lord on a cart. And so now in modern times, we celebrate that yearly all over the world. And I'm really encapsulating this very quickly, by the way. So these festivals are basically parades where the deities are pulled on a cart, and there's just worshiping the Lord while pulling him on this cart and magnifying the Lord in that way, worshiping the deities. And when you get even 3 or 4 devotees all getting together and singing kirtan, you definitely got something. When you get thousands of devotees together and start doing kirtan, then you really have something. And so the whole experience, like I said, this was my first one. They've been doing this for years. I'm new to Krishna conscious, but this was a faith builder if ever there was one. I remember when we had first got there, all the carts are lined up, and there was just something in the air, just a vibration in the air, you know, to be able to come out publicly and in New York City, no less, and be able to worship the Lord in public with no problems, and singing and kirtan going on. It is just amazing. It was an amazing experience. And I want to really highlight the openness of it all, and how in this modern society, in New York City, the busiest city in the world by far, how, you know, people are running here and there and they're doing their business, and you've got a bunch of devotees worshiping the Lord, you know, out in the open. That in itself is amazing. That in itself is a Krishna miracle. If you know, so we got there and I started getting so emotional, and I didn't know what was going on. So I just went with it. I just went for the ride, pulled the rope, and just left my material mind back there on 45th Street in New York City. It's probably still sitting there on the sidewalk. So yeah. So of course, my good friend Mukunda Das was there with me. If you want to unmute your mic, and if you want to share anything, by all means, now go ahead. Yes, thank you. Go ahead, brother.
Yeah, sure, Prabhu. I think, I love going to Ratha Yatra in New York City. You're right, it's a whole different energy. And it's like, it's New York. So you got all of these guys wearing robes and stuff. And since it's New York, it's not that odd. There's much more odd things going on. So
Yeah.
it's like, you definitely are able to kind of lose, not care what others think, right? Everyone's dancing and singing, and you're in the middle of, New York City, but it's like your focus is on Jagannath, Subhadra, and Baladev. So you don't even realize what's going on outside of there, pretty much. So
Yeah.
It's awesome.
Yeah. Yeah. So maybe you could explain a little better what the meanings of all three carts are, because that, honestly, I know it's Lord Jagannath, but I'm not 100% on what the meanings are, or what the original story was behind the whole thing. Maybe help me out with that a little bit if you could.
All right, I'm sure I won't do a good job of explaining it, but the first car is Jagannath, who is the Lord of the Universe and an avatar of Krishna. The second cart is his sister Subhadra, and the third cart is his brother Balaram. Of course, they all have different names, but the story is like Jagannath was sick, so they were taking him to, I can't remember the name of the other palace, but he's the Lord of the Universe, so he's not actually sick, he's playing being sick. And he's doing this because only people who are Indian bodied are allowed in the Jagannath Puri temple. So like you and I, we're not allowed to go in there. But for this time, Ratha Yatra, he goes out in the open for everyone to see, so everyone can take darshan. And it's like a benefit to all of mankind, to be able to get this darshan, which is normally restricted to those that are just Indian bodied. And you know what? I'm not sure the significance of the separate carts. But now I'm interested in that. I've got to look it up, I think.
Yeah, and that's really one of the main reasons why I wanted to do this podcast, is I feel like we're in a time right now where so many people are coming into Krishna consciousness that there's a lot of people coming in and a lot of information to take in at the same time. So I'm trying to kind of like widen that divide, where you got a ton of people coming in and a ton of information that needs to meet the people. And so people know and understand what is happening, because there's a story to all of this. Everything in Krishna consciousness is so meaningful. There's not like, I have the deities right here actually on my bead bag, and there is meaning to why these colors, why they are the colors that they are. There's meaning to everything. So I think it's okay, we accept these things in faith and just go with it, just go with it, because I've had so many answers or questions that have been answered like no problem, like, oh, that makes sense. If it doesn't happen today, it'll happen tomorrow. Someone will answer your question. Krishna will not leave you hanging. He will never leave you hanging. If you're seeking after him and seeking the questions, he is going to answer your questions. So it's a continual research to, it's like our seva, it's like our service to Krishna, to have these questions for him. It's our I think he kind of designed it that way, so he would see us like longing for him, and to have that devotion and love and to have these questions. So I really think that that's a part of the whole deal here. So were you able to pull any of the carts?
Yes, I make sure, like at the very beginning at least, I'll start with Jagannath's cart, and I'll at least get it started to where it's actually moving. And then I run to the next cart, do the same, and then I run to the next cart. And then throughout the day, I just jump from cart to cart pretty much. But I always try to be there for the initial start of each cart.
Yeah. Yeah. Now, can you speak to the energy in the air? This is what, your second or third trip to New York City? I'm not sure exactly.
I think it's my third or fourth, but
oh wow,
everything gets blurry. Yeah, everything gets blurry. I can't remember for sure.
Sure.
Yeah, so the energy, you're hearing the Maha Mantra everywhere, right? So you're getting these transcendental sound vibrations, and it's echoing throughout the city. Thousands of people are chanting, and it's just, you can't explain it. It's definitely not your normal thing. It's not the Central New York 4th of July parade, that's for sure.
Yeah.
So I can't explain it. It's just, you're gonna be smiling. Like, I can't explain it. You're just happy. I'm not one to dance, but for some reason, Ratha Yatra, like, I'm dancing.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it really brings in just a very Sattvic sort of feeling to the city, like right in the middle of the city too. It's amazing. And just the people they kind of like stop and stare, and they're like, what is this all about? Like, oh, that's so great, man. It's so great.
I actually have a great story about that. In Washington Square Park at the Wisdom of the Sages tent area, we were doing kirtan all day, and there was this one woman standing there. When I first noticed her, she was just standing there, looked just like you know, 99.9% sure she wasn't a devotee, but like she was just standing there watching things. And throughout the day, she progressively, you know, she started kind of swaying back and forth. And by the time we left, she was chanting. Like she was stuck, I think. You know, hopefully she's hooked.
Yeah. Yeah. You know, that's when you start chanting that holy name, even if you're brand new to it, it's so powerful. It just kind of sticks in your head. You know, it's got, I don't know if there's like some kind of term for that they use in the advertising world, you know, like a jingle or whatever, but you know, it there's something about it where you hear it and it just stays in your head and you just keep on chanting it all day. And then transcendental things happen to you. So I guess it's cool because it works if you're, even if you don't know what's going on and you just like to chant it, you're still going to get benefit from chanting it. So it's amazing like that. So I was going to say real quick too, the pulling the cart, is there anything that you want to say about that? Have you had any kind of supernatural experience just pulling the cart?
Not that I can think of. I think it's just like, you know, you're doing service for the Lord and for all the devotees, helping them. It's just another good feeling, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe that would be something I'd have to think of. But Prabhu, I actually have to jump off. Glad I could join in for a little bit.
Yeah,
And I will have
absolutely.
to check out the rest of this episode on YouTube. But
Absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you so much, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna, Jai Jagannath.
Yes, Hare Krishna. Uh, so to explain more very quickly, this is a weekly bhakti podcast where we meet unless we're going to a Ratha Yatra, every Saturday and every Sunday at 2 p.m. Eastern time. I'm in New York on the East Coast. So that's when the show starts. You can find me on Instagram at Bhakta Jake. Also, we have a WhatsApp group, and I have to explain that I don't know how to get people into the WhatsApp group, but it is there. And we might have a link for that coming up on the YouTube program, on the YouTube website for this show. I think we're going to have a link coming up for the Instagram too. So I want to very quickly thank everyone watching, thank everyone who was at the New York City Ratha Yatra, and I'd like to thank Lord Krishna especially for his goodness and mercy and how great the holy names are, and to magnify the holy names of the Lord. This is going to be a very short episode, but a very informative episode. Hopefully you can watch this and walk away and think, oh, wow, you know, now I know what Ratha Yatra is all about. And as I said before, find us on WhatsApp, Instagram, and YouTube. So I'm going to jet out too. Stay blessed. Keep on in Krishna consciousness. And as we always close, we recite the Maha Mantra 3 times. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Thank you so much for watching. We will see you soon. on the next show. Haribol, everybody. Haribol.